Okay, in this problem, we're asked to determine whether or not these two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. And then we're given another two lines to compare. And just remember that when you're given two lines, they can either be parallel, perpendicular, or they don't have to be. So let's take a look. In order to figure out if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither, we're going to need to look at the slopes of the lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get our lines into that form y equals mx plus b, because we can always identify what the slope is. And to do this, we need to solve each of these for y. Now notice in the first one, it's already solved for y, so we can just pick the slope right here. M is equal, or I'll call it m1, the slope of the first line, is 2. Now let's look at this one. If I, first of all, subtract 2x from both sides, let's go on here, I get negative y equals negative 2x plus 10. And now what we do is we divide both sides by negative 1, or multiply both sides by negative 1. This will become positive y. This will become positive 2x. This will become negative 10. So basically the signs of everything changed. Now what's the slope of this line? I'll call it the slope of the second line, is also 2. So the slopes are the same. And remember, if the slopes are the same, we can say that those lines are parallel. Okay, now let's look at these two. For this one, let's solve for y. So I'm going to move 3x to the other side by subtracting it. I get 6y equals negative 3x plus 18. Then I divide everything by 6, so I get y is equal to, now negative 3 divided by 6 is actually negative 1/2 x, and then 18 divided by 6 is 3. So the slope of this line, I'll call it the first line, is negative 1/2. Okay, now let's look at the slope of this line right here. So for this one, I'm going to move my 2x over by subtracting 2x. And now to get my sign on my y to be positive, I multiply everything by negative 1. So it changes the signs of everything, both sides. Now the slope of this line is 2. And if we look at these two slopes, here and here, they're not the same, so it's not parallel, but they are negative reciprocals, which means if you take this fraction, you flip it over and you change the sign, you get this. So they're perpendicular. Or you could just multiply the two together and notice that negative 1/2 times 2 is equal to negative 1, and that means they're perpendicular. So for these two lines, we'd say they're perpendicular. And in these examples, I did not give you an example of neither, but if you ever looked at the two slopes and they weren't the same, and they didn't multiply to be negative 1, you would say neither.